My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old. 3 months ago, the military informed me that my husband had died during an operation. The moment those words were spoken, it felt as if my entire life shattered. Since that day, I cried for him almost every night. I tried to stay strong. I tried to convince myself that I had to accept the truth. But deep down, something inside me refused to believe he was really gone. Then one afternoon, my sister suddenly called me. Her voice was trembling. "Emily, come to my house right now," she said urgently. "There's something you need to see." And when I finally saw what she was talking about, my entire body turned cold. Before I explain what really happened, please like and subscribe to the channel and tell me your country in the comments. Now let's start the story. 3 months ago, the military told me my husband had been killed during a mission. Those words echoed in my head every single day afterward. My husband Michael had served as a soldier for nearly 10 years. He was courageous, disciplined, and incredibly devoted to his country. But to me, he was simply the man who made my life feel safe and complete. The day the officers arrived at my door, everything changed. 2 men in uniform stood outside my house. The moment I saw them, my heart dropped. Somehow, deep inside, I already knew what they had come to tell me. They spoke carefully and respectfully. They explained that Michael had been sent on a dangerous mission overseas with a small military team. According to their report, the mission had gone terribly wrong. There had been a powerful explosion, and the report stated that no one survived. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. It felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. I remember grabbing the edge of the table just to keep myself from collapsing. The officers kept speaking, explaining things about bravery, honor, and sacrifice. But honestly, after the words, "he didn't survive," I barely heard anything else. When they finally left, the house felt unbearably silent. Michael's jacket was still hanging beside the door. His favorite coffee mug was still sitting in the kitchen. Everything looked exactly the same as it had before, except he was no longer there. The first few nights were the hardest. I could barely sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, memories of Michael filled my mind. The way he laughed, the way he hugged me before leaving for duty. The way he always promised, "I'll come back." But this time he hadn't. At least that's what everyone believed. Weeks passed. Friends and family members came to visit me. They brought food, flowers, and words of comfort. They kept telling me I had to stay strong. But when the house became quiet again, the loneliness returned. At night, I often sat alone in the living room, staring at old pictures of Michael on my phone. Sometimes I played his old voice messages, just so I could hear his voice again. Some nights I cried until the sun came up. I kept trying to convince myself that I needed to move forward, that Michael would want me to live my life. But moving forward without him felt impossible. 3 months passed like that. Slow, painful days that all blended together. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. I was sitting on the couch drinking tea when my phone suddenly rang. It was my younger sister, Hannah. Normally, Hannah was cheerful and energetic, but the moment I answered the call, I noticed something strange. Her voice sounded tense. "Emily," she said quickly. "Where are you right now?" "I'm at home," I replied. There was a brief pause. Then she said something that immediately made my heart start pounding. "Emily, can you come to my house right now?" Her voice was slightly shaking. "There's something you need to see." I frowned. "What is it?" I asked, but she didn't answer directly. "Just come," she said. "It's important." Something in her voice made me uneasy. Hannah wasn't the kind of person who acted mysterious. If something was wrong, she usually said it immediately. But today she sounded different. Serious, almost shocked. My mind started racing. Was something wrong with our parents? Did something happen to someone in the family? "Hannah," I said again, "you're scaring me. What's going on?" Another moment of silence passed. Then she spoke quietly. "I can't explain it over the phone. You just have to see it yourself." Those words created a strange feeling inside my chest, a mixture of confusion and worry. "Okay," I finally said. "I'm coming." Her house was only 15 minutes away from mine, but the drive felt much longer. The entire time, my mind kept trying to figure out what was happening, but nothing made sense. When I finally pulled into Hannah's driveway, I noticed something unusual. She was already standing outside the front door, waiting. The moment she saw my car, she walked quickly toward me. Her face looked pale and her eyes were wide with shock. That alone made my heart start racing. "What's wrong?" I asked the moment I stepped out of the car. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gently grabbed my hand and guided me toward the house. "Just come inside," she said. We walked into the living room, then Hannah picked up her phone from the table. She held it tightly for a moment, almost like she was preparing herself. Then she slowly turned the screen toward me. "Emily," she said softly, "you need to look at this." The moment my eyes landed on the photo on her phone, my entire body froze. For several seconds, I couldn't move. My eyes stayed locked on the screen. The man in the photo looked exactly like Michael. The same face, the same eyes, even the small scar near his eyebrow from a training accident years ago. My hands began trembling. That's impossible," I whispered. My voice sounded distant even to myself. The military had told me my husband was dead. They said nobody survived that mission. But the man in the photo was Michael. Hannah sat beside me, carefully watching my reaction. "I know what you're thinking," she said quietly. "I thought the same thing." She zoomed in on the photo. The image showed Michael sitting outside a small house. Behind him were mountains and a quiet road. He looked thinner. His beard had grown longer, and there were bandages near his shoulder. But it was him. There was no doubt in my mind. My heart started pounding. "How did you find this?" I asked. "One of my friends shared this post earlier today," Hannah explained. At first I didn't notice anything, but then I looked again and the man looked familiar. She paused. "Then I realized he looks exactly like Michael." I stared at the screen again. Under the photo was a short description. It said the man had been discovered badly injured near the border months ago after a military operation. A local family had found him and helped him recover. My chest tightened. "So he survived," I whispered. Hannah nodded slowly. "That's what it seems like." For a moment I didn't know what to feel. Hope, shock, fear, all of it mixed together. "If Michael is really alive, why didn't he contact me?" I asked quietly. "I don't know," Hannah replied. "Maybe he didn't have a phone, maybe he was too badly injured." I stared at the screen again. The page belonged to a small medical clinic near the border. The post had been uploaded only 2 days earlier, which meant Michael had probably been there for quite some time without anyone knowing. "We need to contact them," I said suddenly. Hannah nodded. "I already sent a message earlier," she said. "You did?" I asked. She handed me the phone. I saw the message she had sent asking about the injured soldier, but there had been no reply. My heart was racing now. I quickly typed another message. I introduced myself and explained that Michael was my husband. I told them the military had declared him dead. Then we waited. Minutes passed. No answer. I tried calling the phone number listed on the page. The phone rang, but no one picked up. Hannah tried again, still nothing. The waiting felt unbearable. Every second felt like an hour. "What if it's really him?" I whispered. "What if Michael is alive somewhere and doesn't even know I'm looking for him?" Hannah squeezed my hand. "Then we'll find him," she said firmly. "We won't stop until we know the truth." Almost an hour passed. Then suddenly a message notification appeared. Both of us froze. Hannah quickly opened it. The message was from the clinic. It said the injured soldier had been discovered after a military mission several months earlier. He had suffered multiple gunshot wounds and severe injuries. A local family had brought him to the clinic for treatment. My heart skipped. Michael had been alive this whole time. The message continued. He was now stable and recovering well. The family who had found him had been caring for him during his recovery. Tears filled my eyes. For 3 months, I believed my husband was gone forever, but somehow he had survived. "Emily," Hannah said softly, "this means he's really alive." I wiped my tears. "Where exactly are they?" I asked. The clinic sent their location. It was a small town across the border. Several hours away by plane. I stared at the address. 3 months ago, I had mentally buried my husband. Now there was a chance he was still alive. I'm going there, I said firmly. Hannah looked at me. You mean right now? Yes, I replied. I need to see him with my own eyes. Without hesitation, she nodded. Then I'm coming with you. For the first time in months, I felt something different. Not grief, not emptiness, hope, because somewhere in that distant town, my husband might still be alive. And soon, I would discover the truth. The next 2 days felt like the longest days of my life. Hannah and I booked the earliest flight possible. I barely slept. My mind was full of questions. What if the man in the photo wasn't really Michael? What if something had changed? What if I finally saw him again after believing he was gone forever? The next morning, we boarded the plane. During the entire flight, I stared out the window, silently praying. When we landed, we immediately took a car to the small town where the clinic was located. After nearly an hour, we stopped in front of a small medical clinic. My hands were shaking. This is it, Hannah whispered. We walked inside. A nurse greeted us. When I explained why we were there, she nodded. Yes, she said, we know about your message. Then she pointed toward the back. He's outside. My entire body froze. Outside. That meant he was only a few steps away. I walked slowly toward the door, then I opened it. Behind the clinic was a small garden, and sitting on a wooden bench was a man. It was Michael. Alive. Tears filled my eyes. Michael, I whispered. He slowly turned his head. Our eyes met. I ran toward him. But instead of smiling, he looked confused. He stood up slowly and studied my face. Then he said something that shattered my heart. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Do I know you? Later, the doctor explained everything. Michael had suffered severe injuries during the mission. The explosion and blood loss had damaged parts of his memory. That was why he couldn't remember many things from his past, including me. Hearing that felt like losing him all over again. But the doctor told me something important. Sometimes memories return slowly if the person is surrounded by familiar people and places. So I decided to try everything. Every day I spent time with him. I told him stories about our life together, how we met, how he proposed, our wedding day, the small jokes we used to share. Sometimes I showed him photos. Sometimes I took him to places that were meaningful to us. But weeks passed. Nothing changed. Michael was always kind, but his eyes still looked at me like I was a stranger. Then one evening, about a month later, I tried something different. I took him to the small park where we first met. We sat on the same wooden bench. The sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Then softly, I began to sing. It was the song Michael loved. The song we used to sing during long car rides. The song he once sang to me on our anniversary. My voice trembled with emotion. Michael listened quietly, then something changed. His expression shifted. Confusion, recognition. And suddenly his eyes filled with tears. He stared at me, then he whispered one word. Emily, I couldn't breathe. Tears rushed down my face. Michael, I whispered. He stood up and pulled me into a tight embrace. We both cried, not quiet tears, but the kind that come from months of pain finally breaking free. He held me tightly, and in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. I had almost lost my husband forever. But somehow, love had guided him back to me, and this time, we were finally together again.